No, that's not true. It's impossible.
Dino!
Hey, what's happening, gamers? It's K-Wing here, and there's no easy way to say this, so I'm just gonna say it. Nightwing is dead. In the cinematic universe that's starting up for DC and Batman vs. Superman, 15 years ago, he died. According to some very, very strong photographic evidence that was leaked last night. And if I find that guy, I just want to... So, what happened? What are these photos? Well, aside from the photos being most likely very real, because DC Comics and Warner Brothers, on the weekend, mind you, has told various publications, including IGN and all these big boys, and even blog sites, to remove the photo immediately, or else. And then the photo goes like that. They still report on the story. Hey, possible spoiler, Dick Grayson's dead, haha. But they can't show the photo, because the photo is very real. I'm actually surprised I haven't had the photo removed from my Twitter yet, because it's like right there, Dick Grayson's grave. And a lot of people on Twitter last night were trying to tell me to cool, like, no, it's Dick Grayson's dad. And I was talking to Caboose and some of the Arkham guys, and I told them they were wrong. Without hesitation, it's like, you guys are wrong. And I'm going to tell you guys why they're wrong with 2 points, all right? Number one, if that was Dick's dad, then he and his mother would be combined under one tombstone. It would say, here lies John and Mary Grayson, because that's usually what happens to husband and wives. They may start with like a single, tombstone, but usually when they're both gone, they're under one grave marker. Number two, okay? Dick Grayson's full name is Richard John Grayson. Whoever made this tombstone or whatever to troll people, that's what it is. And they are really good at knowing the source material. According to the grave marker, he was born in either 1978, 1982, or 1992. Which, I hope it's not 1992. That means he would have been 8 years old when he died. The other ones, he would be in his, about mid-20s. Something like that. It holds a lot of weight, and it's possibly true because in the script for Batman vs. Superman that has been leaked, Batman has lost a Robin, and there is a Robin suit in the Batcave, and Robin's death is very important in the Suicide Squad and between Joker and Harley's relationship. In fact, they're estranged from one another because of Robin's death. And now it turns out that Robin is most likely Dick Grayson. And the reason why I'm so upset about this is because DC is copying Marvel's Captain America Winter Soldier to the T. Dead sidekick returns and becomes a villain. But not just any dead sidekick. The original dead sidekick. Now, those of you that are familiar with the comics, you'll know that DC was the first one to bring the dead sidekick back to life to mess with the partner routine. DC first did it in 2003 during the Hush storyline, where Clayface, under the direction of Jason Todd, disguised himself as Jason Todd to mess with the Batman, because it became public knowledge when Jason died that he was the second Robin. Although how everybody knows that and doesn't, put two to two together and be like, okay, Bruce Wayne was Batman, I'll never really know that about the New Earth continuity and stuff like that, or the New 52, how they were able to hide that. But he comes back and he tells Clayface to go do this. And then in 2005, he comes back as the Red Hood officially and had the Under the Hood arc, which eventually made that awesome movie. But DC did it first. Winter Soldier came out in January of 2005, and then Red Hood officially debuted with his own really deep storyline in February of 2005. But he was already messing with Batman back in 2003 behind the scenes. So I like to think that Todd was first. But now, based on the Winter Soldier, it just seems like DC is trying desperately to compete with Marvel, and they shouldn't have to. The Red Hood storyline is fine as it is with Jason Todd because it holds more emotion than the best Robin dying. And I'm going to tell you why. Jason Todd's story was completely different than Dick Grayson, except when he first came out. When he first came out, he was a Dick Grayson clone in the 1980s, the very early 80s. He had blonde hair and green eyes or whatever. He was an acrobat. His family was killed. He was orphaned, and he became Bruce's ward. He and Nightwing actually got along pretty well, too, which was weird. You know, it was kind of like a big brother, Tim Drake type thing, you know? And then after Barry Allen died in one of the Crisis, I think it was Crisis on Infinite Earths or whatever, Jason Todd became a punk. And he became so detested that yours truly was one of the people that asked my parents permission to dial the hotline and say, kill this guy. I vote for Robin's death because he's a jerk. He kills people. Click. And, you know, Jason Todd, after, that's what he did. He was trained by Batman. He was picked up by him. His origin story goes he was this criminal on the street who was boosting the tires off the Batmobile, and Batman saw potential in him for whatever reason. The only reason they used him as Robin is because Nightwing was doing so well as a solo character that they didn't really need to revamp the entire Batman story. They could go with the second Robin and just go from there, you know. But Jason Todd, he rebelled a lot. He had a lot of anger, and he killed people. He pushed a guy off a roof. He punched a guy to death. He broke some guy's collarbone. He was reckless. He was crazy. And the reason why he died is because he didn't do what he was told. He was inexperienced. He thought he could take on the Joker, and the Joker killed him. That's basically the whole thing. And everybody in the DC universe, while they used Jason as an example, they didn't like him. He was not a fond sidekick. He had no memorial in the Titans Tower. He had a memorial in the Batcave, but he had no honors anywhere else. He wasn't even listed as a fallen hero in the Hall of Justice or anything like that. He was just, you know, Batman was very fond of him, to the point where he almost killed the Joker if it wasn't for Superman in the League. But, you know, based on what Nightwing did later and Tim Drake, because of those guys, Batman was able to come to grips with his failure and move on. Without them now, and Dick being the reason that he died, then he's going to go crazy like he did in Injustice. When Dick Grayson is accidentally killed by Damian in the Injustice storyline, Batman loses it. To the point where he takes Kryptonian pills, he fights Superman. You know, he's insane. There's no lightness to his dark. And killing off Dick Grayson in the cinematic universe is such a bad idea to bring him back as Red Hood, because it doesn't hold the same impact as the failure coming back and being better than his successor and being better than the Batman. Red Hood was a nasty guy who was able to really mess with Batman psychologically and physically. Nobody knew who he was for a while, and he was a match for Batman. He knew everything. Even Dick Grayson kind of struggled when they first fought. Then later, he kicked his butt all the time. But in the beginning, the Robins had a problem dealing with Red Hood. And, you know, that's just facts. So Jason coming back is actually a good thing that will help a lot of Jason Todd fans and DC sell a lot of solo Batman tickets. But killing Dick Grayson is going to tick off millions of people, including yours truly. Because what they've done now is they've stabbed themselves in the foot on so many platforms. They've killed a Titans movie because Dick Grayson knows everybody from Roy Harper to Donna Troy, Wally West. You know, he has so many relationships and he works so well with all those characters. They're not using Tim Drake or Jason Todd in the Titans pilot for TNT. They're using Dick Grayson and establishing those relationships with all those characters, because that's what Dick Grayson is. He is the light to Batman's dark. He is the one that bridges the gap and brings everybody together. Now, in this universe, his death does nothing except prove that Batman is insane and that there's nothing to save him from the abyss. He's swallowed up by his darkness to the point where he is Frank Miller's Batman to the T, except probably crazier, you know? And I know this is just all speculation, but again, DC is really, if this is true, they've totally screwed themselves over big time. No Titans movie, no Nightwing introduction. There's no real, you know, problem with a Red Hood movie. You can't do the Court of Owls. You can't do Forever Evil. You can't do Battle for the Cowl. You can't do anything. So, I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me, because they made such a big deal a few years ago by going through and copywriting all these different Nightwing addresses and adding Nightwing's name to the Batman versus Superman like NDA thing. You know, his name, his full name, his aliases. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I do not believe that including him in the Red Hood plot and having him being the guy under the mask is going to be a good thing. It's not going to work. It's not going to be the same effect. It just isn't. Look at the Under the Hood movie. If there was no living Robin, it wouldn't have had the same impact. I mean, Jason was a failure. He paid the price because of it. I mean, it's harsh, but you have to admit, when he came back, he was pretty cool. And they had a lot of really great storylines that they could do with the character. He even messed with Damian and Dick and got his own sidekick named Scarlet in the Pre-52. You can even read it in Convergence. He's back in that universe, and he's got his sidekick, and he's a killer vigilante. You know, there's a lot of weight to a failure that comes back and actually succeeds to some point. You know, taking Batman's method and just turning it on its head and being lethal. I mean, Jason still believes in justice. He just has a twisted view of it. And, you know, I can say whatever I can about the guy, but his method does actually work a little bit. So, I mean, that's what makes him interesting and different than Batman. Nightwing is a guy that didn't want to be in Batman's shadow, and after the death of Jason and after being fired, you know, they have a lot of distance between one another. And that was what the movie was supposed to be about originally, is Dick Grayson and Batman, they just really didn't like each other anymore. And Jason's death was kind of like the ending point there. Dick went to be his own man. He went to Bloodhaven, or he went with the Titans, whatever. But he wanted nothing to do with the Dark Knight. And that was the same in the comics for a long time. It wasn't until Batman Prodigal, after Batman defeated Jean Paul Valley in the 90s, Dick Grayson took over and, you know, faced his inner demons after Barry died, where Two-Face was the one who shot him and, you know, he got fired. And he was, as the Batman, able to defeat him, and he and Bruce kind of came to terms. And even Bruce was like, you know what, you being your own man is a good thing, you know, being Nightwing. And then the impact and the change that had on Dick after Battle of the Cowl, like, you know, 20 years later or whatever, it was very hard for him to not become Batman because he realized why it's so important that a Batman is in Gotham and why he needed to take over the role because he was the first son, you know? So, I mean, they've just, all these great ideas are just gone. And that's the problem that I'm going to have with this movie. I'm going to go see it, don't get me wrong. Batman and Superman in a film together, I mean, the world's greatest superheroes, they're going to make billions of dollars easily. But in terms of the cinematic universe and future movies, if this is true, then they've ruined so much potential. They've ruined the Bat family once again. They've taken the Tim Burton and, you know, the Christopher Nolan and Christian Bale approach that Robin is not necessary in the films unless he's dead. And they don't understand the character at all. And I'm really, really surprised by Zack Snyder, you know, taking the route of Dan Dido. And, you know, there's really not much we can do anymore, though. I mean, the film is over. They're already editing it. It's done. It's not like back in the day where, you know, we would catch wind of things and be like, okay, they're doing this. Let's go mobilize and stop DC from killing Nightwing and, you know, Infinite Crisis. I mean, sure, he got shot, but he didn't die. And then we really went after DC during Forever Evil. But this time, we lost. Nightwing fans, it's over. If this is true, then we failed. And Nightwing, Dido finally got him. But anyway, now I want to hear from all of you guys. Feel free to open the floodgates of discussion. That's what this channel is all about. You can agree, you can disagree with me, but the evidence is real. Whether or not it's fake or not, Dick Grayson was born in January. His full name is Richard John Grayson. And according to many sources that have been confirmed, there is a dead Robin that is very important to the storyline of the Batman in Batman vs. Superman. And there will be a Red Hood eventually in this universe. And more likely, it's going to be Dick Grayson. So anyway, I hope I'm wrong about this. I mean, I know I'm not wrong about the name. I'm not wrong about the birthday. I just hope that, maybe they're going the Agent Grayson route where he faked his death. Or maybe Amanda Waller did something because of subsequent Suicide Squad films. I don't know, but I am done talking about this. I've gone on long enough. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. I felt really important to share this with all of you. If you like these type of videos, let me know. I'll do more of them. They're really not that difficult for me to throw together at all. But this news was very important to me, so I had to report it. All right, take care.